Yo, 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 this is Steve back with another episode of the Black Superheroes Matter podcast. And today we're actually doing something a little bit different because I also have another podcast that's out called PDX Black Rose. And it's meant to highlight black movers and shakers in Portland. And in this one, we'll do a little bit of a mashup. And so we have Dylan Muldrew, who is a Portland-based artist who is a underground comic connoisseur. He was a rapper. He's an illustrator, a traditional illustrator. And he focuses on creating stories and comics focused around science fiction and horror. And it's meant to be a surreal escape from the pressures of being black in America. And I felt like he's sort of the epitome of the intersections of those two podcasts, where he's in Portland, moving and shaking, doing the things that he does as a black creator, and he's also he's a black creator in comics and in cartoons. And so I'm excited for you to get to know him, check out his story, and without further ado, let's get it started. I wanted to take a break from the episode to let you know that we have some merch that is available. Over at Iltopia Studios, you can find the Black Superheroes Matter art book, which is a collection of illustrations that reimagine your favorite superheroes through the eyes of children of color. We also have a bunch of sticker packs, over 120 different sticker designs of your favorite superheroes. More importantly, we have our Color Me Super coloring book series. Definitely check out the merch at shop.iltopia.com or blacksuperheroesmatter.com. And now, back to the episode. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Christian. And today we have Dylan Muldrew, and
Hello.
we're getting at the end of summertime and going into the fall season and everything. And how are you feeling about things right now?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm kind of a homebody, so I've been definitely enjoying the last couple of years, getting better with the art, just enjoying getting better, knowing myself and everything. Yeah.
It's definitely, I would say, for like us creatives, the fact that the pandemic has forced us to sort of take a step back and
not feel so uncomfortable about it, because whenever you around people that kind of being out and going to bars or all that type of stuff, it's oh, you want to just sit out the house and draw, that's what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
So now it's just put you in a situation. It's now I can just chill and ain't nobody really
it's socially acceptable, right?
Yeah.
It's more socially acceptable. I feel like being into the things that we grew up on, right? Like anime and freaking drawing and comic books and all those things. As we got older, those things became more acceptable. And now the things that we're sort of on the fringes for doing is more mainstream now. And
it's funny to see that kind of that progression, especially with Black Panther and everything. Just because I went to see Blade when it came out, and that was 1990. And it wasn't nobody dressing up in costumes or especially whole families and stuff like that, especially whole black families. That was a Star Wars thing. So that
exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It was definitely a Star Wars thing. And then things just sort of changed. Cosplaying became more popular.
Especially with the internet and everything, just becoming sort of it's kind of weird to say, kind of a singular world or something like that. It's kind of everybody kind of blends together.
I think it the world just gets smaller, and in a way in which typically growing up, you were the only kid in your old school or your own class that was into that stuff. And now
I wasn't the only kid, because I knew kids that were cooler than me, and that were kind of the tougher kids, and they knew the same stuff that I knew, but it wasn't, they had to hide it. So it would be funny, because when we get when we be by ourselves, it'd be okay, we watching Dragon Ball Z, or we watching anime or just cartoons or random stuff, but then we get around other people, it's you kind of just ignore that. You just put that to the side. Especially for kids.
I was I think for me growing up, it was Beyblade, and
Damn.
it was Beyblade, and it was Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah,
Those two,
yeah. For me,
like
I was about to say
you
Yu-Gi-Oh. I was definitely about to say Yu-Gi-Oh.
you had to have the Beyblades, because like they was just like, and you would I would where would I find them at? I would go, it was like Walmart and Toys R Us were like my go-to spots for that. And then Zoids.
Uh-huh.
Remember like the Zoid models? There used to be
Yeah,
like
I
a
still
sale.
bro, hold on. Let me show you. These shits right here, the little model kits,
Yo, yeah.
the little Gundam, yeah, them like to this day, like most for like man, it's still fun. Like just like
Yeah. It's like, and I was surprised. Like I tried to find, because I'm an adult and I got money now, right? So I could
yeah,
like actually buy all the stuff that I couldn't get. I can't believe how expensive like freaking like Zoids in particular. Like Zoids are freaking expensive now.
yeah, those
Like
like old
like
just like things from my childhood, old video games, old like just
yeah,
random toys, especially like
like
those like Spider-Man toys that like you know them like things that used to bend at the arms and at the fingers and like them should be like $60 now just for like
yeah. It's
one
like I
little hit.
swear there was a like there were a couple of model sets that I know were like used to be like $30, and now they're
Yeah,
like they're over 100. And I'm like, dude, like
it's weird. Like just gonna
it's
to look at it. Yeah,
like it's just weird. But I mean, that I guess that's what happens.
yeah.
That's why people collect these things when they first come out, because the value of them increase and all that stuff. And so
Uh-huh.
like it just sucks that like I gotta like figure out what's the new thing now to sort of collect, because all my stuff that I appreciated is not, I mean,
That
they've
was
already like,
way
like
too just unreasonable. Like why this is unreasonable. It's like an irresponsible purchase for like this like
yeah,
$300
it's
whatever. Yeah,
yeah. And
I
so
feel you.
it's a but it's I'll take it, like it just means that the stuff that I cared about, that like I sort of had to hide behind, is of value now. And so it's like I feel validated that like, oh yeah, I was into that too, back when it was a thing, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's but how like, so yeah, what I mean, what are you doing as a, yeah, what are you just doing these days? Like are you writing
Oh,
stories? Are you
oh
creating
yeah, so I
work?
just finished this. Hold on. I don't know if you can I flip this around? Yeah, I just finished this. This is my first book that I put together. Just I like comic like magazines. This is I'm come
Okay.
from I don't know, have you heard of heavy metal?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, these like where are they at? Just so people can see these like it's like these short story magazines from the 70s. I think this is
Mm.
a this might be a what's his name? Frank Franzetta, I think that's how you say it. He's like a painter. I think this is one of his, he did like a lot of the covers for like these old like sci-fi magazines, but this is kind of like what inspired a lot of like my work, I guess you'd say. The first story is like a hold on, pretty much it's a kind of like a wasteland in a way, like like to say the world is like has kind of depleted of natural resources, and especially from Africa specifically. So they've kind of had to like find like a device to kind of regulate the atmosphere and like just to kind of bring life back. But this is like my first story, so like it's kind of jumbled. I was more focused on the pictures more to say, or just like the images and making sure like things at least sounded like somewhat cohesive, you know?
Yeah.
So from my first, I get like a lot of my inspiration, or say like or so just how I like kind of figured it out, like just learning from, I don't know if you heard of Steve Ditko, most like
Yeah.
probably.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um, so for a lot of these images, I went back, you know, it was just reading, as you can see. I don't know if you hold on. Just to get inspiration, or just kind of just even to figure out like, because I come from like hip hop and just like being a rapper, so comic books was kind of like a new thing for me, just kind of like figuring out how to put a story together, or even like how to print it, how to do all that type of stuff. So a lot of panels are just like pages I get inspiration from, like the greats and just like the people that did it first. So here's give me just a second. I'm gonna find, because I took this from a certain page. I should have had it up. Anywho, I'm not gonna say it, waste time. This is like inspired by like a Spider-Man page from a Steve Ditko comic.
Okay.
And yeah, so just to kind of just like a little quick walkthrough, but like a lot of sci-fi stories like inspire me. Like they're just like short stories.
Okay. And so you're writing, illustrating, and doing pretty much everything from start to finish?
From start to finish.
And so what actually like got you into like actually wanting to take on all those roles? Because it's like, each one of those roles it requires a different level of skill
that like
time, right?
It definitely took me a long time to do my first one, for the simple fact that I didn't know like when I was supposed to write, and then when I was supposed to like draw, or like, okay, is it done now? Do I start the inks, and like, do I like color it through the computer? Do I do like watercolors and stuff like that? So just like but the person that kind of mainly influenced me to really make that transition, and to even give me like inspiration to do something other than rap and still like be in that, like in the hip hop space, was, I know you heard of Ed Pisker. So these Jones right here, these so people can see these hip hop family tree comics.
Oh,
just like an anthology of just like just hip hop, just like in a very detailed, like very serious kind of, almost like a textbook sort of fashion, but just like in comic book form. And yeah, this is kind of like, I like superheroes, but I kind of like the study, and that kind of comes with like these kind of projects where like you gotta like, I know he's done a lot of interviews with people, and just like it's a lot of like very off, like just like information you wouldn't find like anywhere else. So just like that type of stuff is like pretty cool to me. That's kind of like how I got the inspiration for this for the next story, because this is I did like 3 stories in this first one, and this one is hold on. This one is based on a space station that was created after Zambia got independence, I think about 1964. And so dude was like trying to he was like a science teacher that was trying to like trying to compete with like Russian space stations, and like the US, is like the kind of like the space age at the time. So like, but they, Time Magazine that went out there and like did this whole interview thing, and it ended up being like a whole, like, I don't want to say like a joke, but like he just wasn't, it's like it takes a lot to like have a NASA.
Yeah.
especially after getting independence from like, the like mad years. But he, he has like kids rolling down hills and like these like makeshift like astronaut suits, and like kind of like, people are like kind of making fun of them, and they're doing like these flips and stuff like that. So yeah, and this is I don't know if Zambia's I don't know what country that is, or like I don't know if it's the same, it has the same name or what. I think it's like the Congo or something like that, somewhere around in that region. But yeah, just like these short scientific stories are just like actual, like, I get a lot of inspiration from like real events and like history and stuff like that, and science.
Yeah, it reminds me of this concept of Afrofuturism, if you're familiar with that, where
not really, but
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely look into it, because that's essentially sort of the foundation of the work that you're doing, where it's really looking at creating stories that are focused around, Black identity and essentially Black mythology, and infusing, looking at exploring the concept of what if in these different scenarios.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So
but lately I've been working on a story. It's like a female ninja clan and they like hunt down George Zimmerman. It kind of sounds a little crazy, but this like it's just
I mean,
like
that is a great premise for a story.
Yeah, it's just like
I
what,
just put that out there.
just as a what if, like they're just like, you know, just like different things like that. They're just like what does like a what does like a black future look like, and like even if it is kind of a little twisted and like fucked up, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but this is all storytelling, and they all have these like messages, and it's all entertainment behind it, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like, why can't we come up with these different things, right? You know, like other cultures have, I mean, Spider-Man, right? Like, what happens if a radioactive spider just bites you? You get spider powers, woo, and now you're Spider-Man, right? Like, it's why can't that, why can't it be as fantastical as that? But stuff that's
and
relatable to Black people.
Another thing about Spider-Man, and to tell our story in a certain way, because Spider-Man is like, you think you had like Superman, he was like, you know, he had like all these like random ass powers, and it wasn't really as cohesive as a story as Spider-Man. Because you think how many black kids you know that like take care of like an old grandparent, or like, you know, I gotta like, you know, they're in high school, they got to get a job, they gotta like, you know, and it really tells like I don't know if he was doing it on purpose, but it kind of really tells like the inner city, like American kid story of like trying, like struggling and kind of like needing a superpower to like feel, you know, kind of like something else. But I was going with that.
I think for us on the West Coast, that's something that like resonates with like Black people in general, right? But I think on the East Coast, because it's, you know, the East Coast has been around a lot longer, and you know, New York and all those things, there's a lot of different overlaps in culture, right? And so stuff that we typically assume is just sort of like a Black experience is also, you know, kind of an immigrant experience or whatever. But in that vein, right? Like if you you know, outside of Miles Morales, right? Like there wouldn't be any representation that said like, oh yeah, this really speaks to us. You know, we sort of have to make the connections ourselves, opposed to it just being implied, right? And I think just like being able to present something or create something that doesn't force the reader to imply, but really just sort of admire and witness. I think that's so powerful.
I feel you. Yeah, damn. I never heard anybody say it like that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, you know, I do the stuff too, man. But you know, I always have an admiration for people that just wake up one day and just say, hey, I'm gonna just do this, and I'm gonna learn the skills to do it. Because if you're able to take on these different roles and create a project and finish it, right? Like the act of just finishing it and seeing the idea through, I mean, that's just really powerful.
Yeah,
right? It's empowering.
Yeah, because you draw it. What's funny is like I drew it and then I thought it was done, and then I went to Kinko's and I realized I have to explain how to put a book together. Like I have to say, you put this page on the opposite page and not this. And I was like so jumbled. I was like, oh, sitting there for like 10 minutes, like trying to explain to him how to put this book together. Like if I wanted it like if I wanted like an actual bind, if I wanted just like staples or just like
binding,
the paper,
binding is a whole new beast.
Because you draw, it's just like I had to like, you got to pay attention, because at first I was just kind of like freehanding it, but then I had to make a template, like, because you know these panels are kind of set up a certain way to where there's like a good amount of space to where the binding doesn't like over or anything like that, and it just everything kind of looks cohesive. And like I had to like kind of get a ruler out and just make a template of just like stuff, just to make sure I'm like making the same panel grid every time. And just like but Ed Pisker's like show, he does this like this cartoonist K-Fab thing that like helps me a lot, just like, you know, just like little things like that, just taking pointers.
For that very reason is why I moved to digital, because you just get templates and you're just like, okay, cool, I get to focus on the story rather than all the technical stuff. I think when it comes to binding and like printing books, so I used to print and like bind my own books, and so I used to do all that stuff by hand. because it ended up being cheaper. In the long run, and it gave me a lot more flexibility than doing like print on demand stuff. And so because I found that like I would try to use like a non-standard measurement for my book. And so in order to get that cut, it would just cost a lot of money just to get like the first print done.
Yeah, it's just like you go over like 1 inch and it's like it's a $40 more.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so it's like that's like two book prints right there. Yeah. And so I started exploring a lot of variety of treating the book making process as an extension of the art form, right?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. I had to keep going. I'm sorry, me to cut you off.
Oh yeah, it's just like all the way down to like the paper, right? Like if there was like a mock newspaper in the book, then like what would it look like to have like newsprint as like that paper stock for that and stuff. So
and it attracts a certain kind of reader too, to like the newsprint and like gloss paper or just like whatever like you choose. Yeah, but I definitely had to because of the color thing, just seems like it was like a little expensive. So this next comic, let me show you. Hold on.
Well, just color in general is like 8 times more expensive than like freaking regular black and white, like in general.
This is one that I've been working on the last couple, like just the last week or so. And as you can see, it's way more black.
Oh
just like way more just not really trying to like rely on color and just trying to find just trying to get better with like just like anatomy and just like different, just like taking just the drawing a little more serious.
Have you found that like the transition from like color comics to black and white, it requires kind of a different approach to drawing?
Yes. Let me. Yeah, because you in spaces where there would normally be, because it's just weird just to put black everywhere, I guess. It's not real. It's just it's just like it's almost like you have to rely on the lighting. It's just like it's just like, because you see these different you got to put more emphasis into these like kind of like these little detailed like lines here and stuff like that, where like it shows like the wrinkles in the shirts and just paying attention to more like just facial details and just like just like and then trying to fill up the trying to do more filling up the actual panel and just like making it like look more alive and just like color is definitely it can be a bit of a crutch that I've learned.
I mean, I used to take pride in just being like, well, my line work isn't that great and stuff, but like I could distract you with a whole bunch of different colors, distract all those imperfections. But on the flip side, it's like if you put a lot of color on it, then on the back end, you're going to have to pay for that in printing. But like with black and white stuff, it costs a lot less. It's just creatively you have to approach it in a way that makes it look good, right? Like every manga that you pick up is going to be black and white, and just the line work in that is just really, really nice. And so it's like I've grown to appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, what I've got what really inspired me to do like black and white is these. I don't know if you heard of Ken Landgraf. He's like New York City Outlaw Comics. It's like these older. Hold on. There's like these older kind of like independent style, just these random stories. It's just like it's like madness. But they're just like the black and white is just like so. When you think of a sky, you don't think of like a black sky, and just like just all this like. It's just this like a different way of drawing,
Oh yeah, it's definitely like it definitely stands out like
way more, and then it makes you kind of like pay like gray tones and stuff like that, and like even like using zipatone and like just different things you can do to fill space.
Yeah, it's like
see, like that
I
stuff.
feel like it makes you very creative because you find ways to you're looking at the overall composition, right? Like each one of these details
that's hell.
really serves a
Ninja star
purpose.
in his head.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like each one of these just serves a purpose. And so when you're creating a panel or a page, like you're creating it with intent because you don't want to black out the page. You just want you want the line work to be used as a storytelling device.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know, like, you like this background, like this, like kind of like screen. I don't even know how to do that. Like, how would you? It's like these older like comic book techniques.
Yeah,
so
where you're with like a X-Acto knife and you're with like a a whole bunch of different like films and panels, and then you're sitting there just cutting. And yeah, I've seen a few people I've seen a few people work on that type of stuff, and I'd be like, damn, that's some patience right there. Like
that's funny because that's what I come from, is like the kind of like the physical, like the cutting stuff out. But then I look at like artists like Todd McFarlane and just like it's just like, how do you just sit there on the screen? You can see like, because his stuff is like a lot cleaner. It's like these like older Spawn comics and stuff like that. And this one's taped up. But, yeah, even kind of a lot of people that do stuff on the computer tend to like go towards like the glossier paper, and it's just like a different, it's not as like I think because of his materials and what he's using, he doesn't have like he has more of a freedom to kind of like, it's not a traditional like book. He's just kind of like does whatever, because you can just like, move it with his hands, just like it's on like a touch screen. So it's just like, or just like on a, just using a computer program. So this is like more freedom. You just like, it's like taking the same artist, but just like giving them like 1,000 more tools, and just like, but I still lie. I can't get it to this day. So like I've tried to like on the iPads and stuff like that, and it just doesn't, like, for me, it doesn't translate the same. I don't know, but some people can do it like really well. I'm jealous.
It's honestly, it is something that you kind of have to commit to, and you just be like, I'm only going to do this until I get good. Like,
I can't lie, I do get frustrated after like an hour and just be like, fuck this, I'm about to go draw. It's just like with ink, regular ink, but like, man, that it looks so fast. It's like, I know there's an artist, another artist, Tom Scioli. He does like newer Fantastic Four comics and like G.I. Joe, Transformer stuff, and he does like stuff on the iPad, and it looks fun. But then I tried to do it on other people's stuff, and it just like it's like I can't draw. Like it just doesn't like same way.
I've been trying to I just got an iPad Pro. I normally work on like a PC and a Cintiq, so I have like a big Cintiq that I've been using for a minute, and I love it. It's great. And so I just started using the iPad, and I haven't really been sold on sort of like creating on the iPad with it, but I've been looking for like animation software. And so I'm not used to sort of like the clean line work of to work on an iPad, but to like sketch out like an animated scene, you don't need like clean line work to do drafts of animation. You just need to just be able to just scribble some stuff and then make a whole bunch of frames. And so
really,
it's very loose. It's a very loose process.
That's weird, because I like, you ever see that show like Super Jail, and like those like crazy like it's like those Adult Swim like cartoons and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot of it just looks like so much work. It's just like all these, like, even though it's like a 30-minute show, it's just like
it's a lot of drawing. Well, they've made it easier because of like, motion tweening and like there's ways to shortcut it for like those animated shows, but yeah, 24 frames per second and 60 seconds in a minute and 30-minute show. So like you kind of just do the math, and that's the expectation that you're looking in terms of frames. And so as an animator, I've been an animator for almost 10 years.
Oh wow.
And it's you know, for me, I don't bat an eye on that anymore. Like at first it's like, oh snap, I got to draw 1,000 frames just to get 2 seconds worth of animation. It's
Yeah.
like I don't really need to. You know, there's the software makes it easier.
Yeah.
um but if you like look back at like all the stuff that like Disney animation was doing and all that stuff back in like the 50s and 60s and 70s, man, they were innovating. They were sitting there, you know, finding ways to do camera angles with different things. And this is still just drawing. And so I was like, oh crap, you know, like this is, you know, the biggest, like technology has always been there, you know. And so it's just a matter of how do you use the technology to help your workflow specifically.
Mhm.
That becomes the ultimate, you know, the ultimate
Yeah,
challenge. And so
definitely.
like now that I got an iPad, I'll see how this works. You know, like if
Yeah.
not, then at least, you know, I'm in school still too. And so I just use that for note taking at the moment. But finding ways to be creative with these tools is always it's always a journey that I always I I just appreciate because it just makes things, if you figure it out, it makes things so much easier. Oh my gosh. Like
Definitely.
it's just you got to figure it out.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. It's so how like how did you get started in really just like creating, just like wanting to be creative and like telling stories really? Because like, you know, we all have our ideas that like we want to just sort of create a cartoon or have, you know, a world that, you know, people buy into, or video games or X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I think
What got you into this?
I've always like been like super creative. Like my mom keeps like a lot of like my mom has like a whole art gallery of just like stuff I've done like over the years, like in her living room, and like even like in random boxes, she'll have like stuff out for like old comic books I made in like second grade, just like random stuff that I even like, you know, because I used to I was doing like a lot of like I was like a lot of rapping, a lot of hip hop before like a couple of years
Mhm.
ago. And just like I just got to a point where I kind of felt like I just didn't want to go out every night, and I just kind of felt like I was doing a disservice, just like kind of like having the attitude about like doing something I didn't like necessarily like want to do all the way. So just the maneuver in the comic books like felt like a natural kind of transition, and just like damn, what was the question? I'm
No, just yeah, just like how did like what was sort of the catalyst that made you want to, you know, take on these various hats to just like tell your own stories? Like, because you know, it's not like you're just writing your drawing, like you're doing everything, right? Like you're creating, you know, a body
yeah,
of work that people can experience. And like for, you know, uh a lot
yeah,
of it you're doing sort of by yourself, right?
yeah, but I always been creative. It's just like I have a vivid imagination, and I just like think about like a lot of like my brain just kind of just like goes all the time, and I'm just kind of thinking about a lot of things. So it's almost like a need, kind of like, because I was making a lot of songs, and it was like, okay, I can't like really rap about a space because I'm watching movies about alien, just like alien like Star Wars. I can't like rap about a space station or just like certain kid, you know, it's just like I was having a hard time just like kind of translating certain ideas and just like the comic books, and just like I was making videos at the same time too, and it just like felt like it just felt like a lot easier just to like get like ideas out. It wasn't even like necessarily like a conscious thing. It was just like, okay, so what, okay, I had this idea of like two like these two black like scientists like kind of like on some alien stuff, like you know, just like kind of like I don't really know exactly what I'm trying to do, but I'm trying to do something on the lines of that, and just like how what's the best way of like getting this idea out. And just a comic book just seemed like the most like it just seemed like the most fulfilling, and it just ended up I couldn't even like explain. It just like it just kind of like it just snowball effect. Just one day I just ended up at a comic book store, and just like I bought one, I bought three, and it just like it just kept going. But
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, I don't even yeah.
Man, I think it's you know, always looking back at the journey, it's I I think I'm at the point now where I just appreciate, you know, having the ability to just be like, oh yeah, I remember when I got just started into these things, and look where I'm at now, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
I think it's, I feel fortunate enough to just like be able to just say like, okay, I took this path and I didn't really know where it was going, and now I put the time in, and now I'm actually able to like see, these ideas clearly, or I could actually hold these ideas in my hand,
Yeah, things come
because I
out
worked
like
on a
you
project.
have like a way to just things come out smoother, just like just learning how to just like, so now it's not taking like a year for me to just like to finish one book, or just like, or just to finish a page or something like that. It's not
Yeah,
taking that long. So yeah, definitely. But
yeah,
it
like
feels a lot better just like just being able to get like certain ideas out, and just like because when I was young, I used to read like a lot of, just children's books and stuff like that, just like Dr. Seuss, and just like it's like had, it's always just been in the background. So just like just feel like this is a better, better transition in rap. Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely more sustainable.
Has
It's
you in a lot of
less.
different rooms, like because I have conversations with like architects and just like stuff like that, and just like just rent, not just it's like just able to talk to different people.
Mhm. Yeah, like I feel like the foundation of the idea is always the same for me going into it, but the output, the medium in which people like experience that idea is opens up just a market, or an audience that otherwise wouldn't see my stuff if I was sticking to a particular medium, right?
Uh,
Like I used to be a painter, and I used to airbrush. And so it's like, yes, I could sort of like airbrush stuff and people would appreciate it, right? But like
yeah,
when I animate, and when I'm, creating, cartoons and stuff like that, or comic books, that same idea that I would airbrush or explore through airbrush, through a book format, just has a lot more reach. And I could always go back and airbrush. I'll probably airbrush a cover or something like that. But
uh,
like, it's all for me. I've grown to appreciate the ideas and what mediums I could use to explore those
yeah,
ideas.
exactly, yeah, exactly.
And to where it's like, oh yeah, I might want to, do something digitally. And then it's like, well, I'm tired of working digitally. Let me just print something out, or just work on, a large piece of paper. Or maybe I want to print something, and all that stuff could still be part of the same idea. Um, and it's, I think, we're sort of fortunate enough to be in the age where we could even like consider that, right? Like just the
Yeah, just
idea of
yeah,
like considering it. Yeah.
yeah,
And
because yeah, if this was like the '60s, we had to really, really, really want to be comic artist, or yeah, because you ain't getting no money for that shit. Yeah,
yeah, no, it's it's like they are not, they do not care about black owned businesses, the way they
man.
do now, because it's a and times change, right? Like, the market, to say that like, oh, you wanted to just make this freaking sci-fi Afrofuturistic story, and you want it to be about black people, and you wanted to explore the intersections of social issues and fantastical realism,
Yeah,
and and to assume that there's an audience. That's a very new thing, because prior to the past, what, 10 years or 20 years, it was hard enough to just get a mainstream black character, you know to be widely adopted. And now we're seeing new characters that look like us, you know
look like us and are created by us. It's not just like a
yeah,
black
exactly.
character. I was like, oh, but it's created by Todd McFarlane, even though that's cool. But it's like just to see somebody like I don't know if familiar with there's a comic book artist Frico who does like he does kind of like an underground style, like a like kind of like what's his name, like Robert Crumb type of
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and yeah, he's like just to see like that somebody that's not he's not like a nerd. He's just a cool dude. He wears gold teeth. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yeah, it's like they make like we make comic books too. It's like
Hmm.
it's like a lot of Instagram is definitely like kind of like brightened or just like widened the spectrum of like what a comic book artist looks like, and like
Exactly.
it's not just about superheroes. It's not just about like it's not just like one single solitary thing. It's just like a there's a lot of things that you can do, and there's a lot of things a lot of stories that haven't been told, especially by us.
Yeah.
That need to be told. It's like a lot of stuff that needs to be done. It's just like in other spaces, like creatively, other than music. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's we're definitely seeing that. Although there is one I have yet to see a big buff like black guy making like Hello Kitty stuff. That
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
that would sort of that story just sort of writes itself right there, right? Like just what would that dynamic look like of like the hoodest Hello Kitty thing you'll ever find?
Exactly. That's like I just feel like because of the I want to say that like I don't know if the narrative is the right word, or just like kind of just like the expectations that come with being black and how you're supposed to, just a lot of that stuff like doesn't come out just because it just gets like kind of suppressed. It's just like
gets lost in the stereotypes.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, like just I just remember how just being a skateboarder growing up and just being called white. Yeah,
look at like, Tony Hawk. Like Tony Hawk changed the game. Like Tony Hawk Pro Skater changed the game. What was it with Kareem Campbell?
Kareem Campbell, yes. Like yeah, that and like Terry Kennedy and just like the whole just like changed just over the years. Definitely like made it a lot easier. Stevie Williams made it a lot easier for us. Just other aspects of life just to exist freely without being judged,
Yeah, I think it was like the most formative like games that I could think of that made it acceptable to get into extreme sports were Tony Hawk Pro Skater for skateboarding, and then this game called SSX, which was like a snowboarding game. SSX Tricky. Like those two games, because the soundtrack for SSX Tricky was Run DMC, and so and
the soundtrack for Tony Hawk was like rock and was like, and it had like niggas listening to rock and like
right
like
yeah, that
shit that would be listening to.
Yeah, and then like two other ones were Crazy Taxi. Did you remember Crazy Taxi?
Yeah, of course. Like, yeah. I'm a super video game nerd, so I got a lot of shit that you're saying actually.
So like Crazy Taxi, that like the theme song for Crazy Taxi, whenever that would play, that always resonated with me. And then just Rock Band, like the game Rock Band. Because remember they did that whole like mashup where they actually started having like hip hop songs.
Yeah,
Rock Band.
It's
the
DJ thing. I did the DJ thing from
the DJ thing. And so it's like freaking trying to like get 5 stars on like a Stevie Nicks song, and then you move over to like a Snoop Dogg song and trying to give 5 stars on that. It was just like the reason I know non-black music now is because I play those games. And the reason it sort of resonates now because of video games, and because it sort of gave you the license.
Good, man. Like from like thinking about like being a little kid and like how much I used to get harassed by like my cousins and just like people like saying slick stuff like, oh, you do this, that mean you don't know where you come from, or just like little stuff like that. And now just like it just feels good to like just to be cool and just like for a lot of that shit to just like kind of just like go away, and just like people don't even like look at it like that anymore. It's not such a like a separation.
Yeah, like it's just times change. Times change, and I think that the conversations we're having now are like, when's the next like black superhero movie coming out, or who's making this or who's making that, opposed to sort of the expectations that you sort of we sort of grew up on. And so I'm glad that I'm able to.
Cool, man. Black people making horror movies.
Yeah, right. Like Candy, like remember Candyman? Like Candyman, Candyman and Leprechaun. Those are the two movies that like I remember. Leprechaun in the Hood.
Yeah,
like exactly, Leprechaun in the Hood and Candyman were like the two movies that I remember growing up.
And we're actually scary. We're like,
they were like that and Tales from the Hood.
Yeah. Bro, I had it on VHS. Like my dad had that recorded on VHS, right? And I watched it one night not knowing what it was. That shit had me.
I was like, look, to this day, to this day, Leprechaun in the Hood and Tales from the Hood are two movies that I was like, I can't, like, I remember having nightmares the
Yeah,
day that I watched those when I was like freaking
going to sleep
five,
with the
6 years
light
old.
on.
It was horrible. Like I
Yeah.
to this day. And to see those things sort of like, well, they haven't brought back Tales from the Hood, which is one they have to do. But to see Candyman coming back and to see it sort of have this sort of like modern twist to it, and not have it be sort of grindhousey, right? Like
Uh-huh.
it where it's kind of like a low budget,
Yeah. Oh yeah,
like those like sort
exactly.
of like low
Yeah,
budget movies and stuff. Like it's
exactly.
like I to see those at like a high quality and people taking it seriously
Uh-huh.
when it
Getting
was really
awards
only
and shit
like,
like.
right, like it
Yeah.
like when like those types of things you would only know around like black circles, right? Like
Uh-huh.
you wouldn't really see those things being understood or widely adopted or accepted in other spaces outside of like black spaces, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to see that stuff sort of seeing the line, like getting the respect that it deserves, you know
Exactly.
like it's a what a time to be alive. I appreciate it.
For real. Yeah.
Yeah. And so with that, where can people find your stuff?
New I got a website it's under construction right now because I've been busy painting these pots, so I haven't had a chance to like I've been revamping my comic book at the moment, just getting like working on a new cover, and then I'm adding like a new story. So, but I have a website, just newafricacomics.com, and it's comics with an X, like
Okay.
COMIX, just and then NU newafricacomics.com. And within like the next month or so, it should be backing up and running. But yeah, that's where I sell my comics, and just like a lot of just original art and pottery and stuff like that. Just like different stuff I'm painting. So yeah, that's where you can
Okay.
check me out. And then on Instagram too, I'm at New Africa Comics. And then I'm working on the Patreon, a lot of that stuff. Just the Instagram is the main thing. I do Africa
Yeah.
Comics, but like just keep in touch.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that they have like the Instagram shop and stuff like that. I haven't really played around with it,
Yeah, I
but
have
that
either. People have been telling me
like
about it.
it's a I don't know. I feel like the pandemic definitely like gave license for more like platforms to build up for like e-commerce and stuff like that. But then
Yeah,
I also feel like it sort of muddied like it adding so many features kind of bloats the experience of using certain apps, right? And
yeah.
so
I
it and
feel
so
you.
it, it's a but cool. Yeah, so we got the website, we got Instagram. We'll definitely start to push people that way. And as they in the descriptions and some of the promos that we'll do for this episode of the podcast. And
Yeah,
then and yeah, like I definitely appreciate it. I definitely
yeah.
appreciate the time.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
And
My main goal for comic books is just like creating like just like like you said, man, like black futurism, just like that
yeah.
imaginary world that like just all the stories that we all talk about just amongst
Mhm.
ourselves that never get told. Just like the craziest. What if so and so does this? What if this happens? Like, what if it was a world with just all black people? Just like weird stories like that. Like that's like the main thing that I want to like work on and do stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
just to get my
It,
mission story out there. Yeah,
and it's
mission
like,
statement.
all the stuff that like we know or that we're familiar with, all is, essentially they're all stories, right? Like unless you were there, you really know. Otherwise, like everything's just a story that we tell each other and that we tell ourselves. And
Yeah,
so why is it that everybody else has a license to sort of tell stories and sort of create this mythology and have pride behind it? But for us, we sort of have to talk ourselves into it and we have to convince people that it matters. It's like the
yeah,
act of telling stories and the act of putting that stuff out is what matters because it exists out there and people can, appreciate it or they can do whatever they want with it. And so, half the battle is just, finding the time and building up the courage to just put the story out there. And
yeah. Yes,
and
yes.
and I mean, you're doing it.
Which is
So,
different than like any other like kind of people. Just having the courage to like get past
yeah.
just the doubt. It's like a mountain. And then once you get past the mountain, it's like an empty just like
Yeah,
plain.
it's
It's like
it's a void. Like
yeah,
it's literally a void. Like, and then people are like, "Oh man, I've been looking for something like this. I'll be like, what? Really?
Yeah, like
I wish I would have known that.
once I made the book and I got it in my hand, it's like a whole new feeling. It's like, oh, this is like, this is real. Like I can make this real. Like I can like the things in my mind like actually like can exist if I just like are diligent enough to like, follow through.
Yeah. And it's like, and I appreciate that, right? Like it's something that like as I talk to my parents, like you could tell that like they haven't had that sort of feeling. Or they
Yes.
haven't had that like,
Yeah,
that
like I'd be like, yo, like dad, you can just go look that up on Google. Like you could just like, but they don't have like they don't like it's like they just didn't like grow up with that. So they just don't understand
yeah,
like really understand like that you can like really just go do it.
it's just unfathomable. Like it's
Yeah.
just like it's like telling them to just like walk on water. It's like you can't do that. And it's like, well, you kind of can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel you.
Yeah, but yeah, just really appreciate the time. Really appreciate, just the work that you're doing, and really just excited to continue following it and seeing how seeing the next release, like seeing all the stuff that you're coming up with. And
Oh
so
yeah, it's coming soon, man. I appreciate the time. Yeah, your time, man, and especially you documenting this, like doing the work, willing to do the work. Because some people just like don't know how to just like you know the journal. There's not a lot of good journalists out there. So this is definitely like I
well,
had to
hey, if I'm considered a journalist at this point, cool. Like, yeah, I'm an animator that's in medical school right now. So right now, I'm just over here, just I get to talk to cool people, get to connect with
Yeah.
people that are doing amazing things. And so for me, it's just like I'm just here to just have cool conversations and just record those and put those on the internet. And so it's so if that's what it is, I'll take it.
Good word. That's what's
Yeah.
up.
But yeah, really appreciate it. And with that, we will call it a wrap. And there we have it. That is another episode of the Black Superheroes Matter podcast in the wraps. Again, the purpose of this podcast is for people to get exposed to a variety of different things that Black people are creating in the arts and entertainment industry. The goal is for this podcast to bring light to all those and those creators, because as a community, we have the opportunity to skirt some of the problems that we've seen in this day and age when it comes to expressing Blackness. And so if you love this, definitely check out the more work that we're doing. Go to @BlackSuperheroesMatter, or you can go to blacksuperheroesmatter.com to check out the blog and the write-ups that we do on these guests. And if you're so inclined, feel free to support my work at Iltopia, where we have the Black Superheroes Matter art book, the Black Superheroes Matter sticker packs, and even coloring books, activity guides. And so if you want to check that stuff out, check it out at shop.iltopia.com. It's all Black owned. I might add, they're all handmade products, and they're all made with love for the community that has really given me the opportunity to find my place in this world. And so, again, thank you for another wonderful episode. Thank you for listening. Feel free to follow all the stuff that Black Superheroes Matter is cranking out, and excited to share another wonderful guest with you on next episode. So without further ado, thank you very much.